All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexis Rogers. I am your Broadcast Task Force Chair.
And I'm Ken Lemon. I'm NABJ VP of Broadcast and Deputy Chair of the Broadcast Task Force. And Alexis, we're off to a booming start here.
Yes, I am so excited to get started with our meeting/power panels. We plan on doing one of these every single month. And matter of fact, we're really excited to reintroduce you to the NABJ Broadcast Task Force.
From coast to coast, we're all about engagement. I'm Ken Lemon, WSOC TV, Charlotte.
We're all about encouragement and collaboration. I'm Alexis Rogers, an anchor at Wish TV in Indianapolis.
We're here to be a resource to Black TV, radio, and podcast professionals and their organization. I'm Eric Sellers, an associate producer with ESPN.
Providing a safe space to discuss challenges in our industry. I'm Jennifer Moore, KHOU 11 News, Dayside Executive Producer in Houston.
We're dedicated to making sure our newsrooms are diverse and inclusive. I'm Darius Johnson, a reporter and fill-in anchor at KUSA TV in Denver.
Keeping you in the loop and answering your questions. I'm Malcolm Johnson, a producer at Fox 49 in Philadelphia.
Offering training, career, and advancement opportunities to our members. I'm Sharice Gibson.
Advocating for Black journalists and media professionals. I'm Cameron Riddle, reporter and talk show host in Indianapolis.
Championing diversity in newsrooms across the country. I'm Charmaine Nero with KARE 11 in Minneapolis.
Uniting journalists and media professionals. We're here for you. I'm Scoop Jefferson, Emmy Award-winning reporter, WFAA Television, Dallas-Fort Worth.
We're the new.
We
are the new.
NABJ Broadcast Task Force.
All right. Well, I'm so happy that you have gotten a chance to get to know who we are. We're just excited to be able to give quality programming, create a community of support and enrichment for all of us in NABJ broadcast space. There's so much to talk about. So I know Ken was going to talk a little bit about our social media presence for us. Ken, there's lots of ways to connect with us, right?
There are lots of ways to connect with us. And this year, there's a new way. We're now on the gram, and we hope you will join us. I had an opportunity to see some of you with us later on, near the end of this. We're gonna pop up some of our social media tags so that you can see what we're doing. We're operating right now in this closed group, which is on Facebook. One of the first things that we did. We're on Twitter as well. Most of them read as NABJ Broadcast Task Force or some variation thereof. Again, at the very end, you'll get an opportunity to see what each of those labels look like for each one of those platforms. We would love it to have you engage. It's a safe place for you to come in, not only to see what we're doing, but to also celebrate journalists who are doing great things in our field, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. We've been working hard just to make sure that our community is growing. So the best way to join us is right here through our Facebook group. It's a safe space for us to share information. All right. Well, I am so excited about our first power panel, the power of your ask, the art of negotiating. And we have an amazing panel for you all. So I'm excited to introduce everyone. I'm going to start off with my lady in pink, Miss Kinesia Cross, OTA talent agent. We also have none other than Bob Butler, broadcast vice president of SAG-AFTRA, also a former NABJ national president, one of my mentors. We always love to see Bob. We also have none other than the Rob Nelson. Rob's been a little bit of everywhere. Now he's at Newsy, and he's up way later than he normally should be. So we appreciate you for staying up. And originally we were going to have Anzio with us, but it's okay. He couldn't join us. He had another obligation. So then he sent his equal. We have Galen Gordon here with us, Senior Vice President of Talent Strategy and Development for ABC News. So as you can see, we are in good hands. To my panel, thank you all so much for just taking the time to be with us today. We all know that negotiations and the power of an ask can be very tricky, but we know here in our NABJ family, we like to give the gems to make sure that we're getting the ultimate thing and for what we're able to offer. So thank you all for joining us. Let's get started by talking about what we need to know when we're trying to negotiate a new contract. what are some things from each one of you, because I only get 15 minutes with you before the next moderator will come up, that you think that people don't know about, the top 2 things that people don't know to ask in their power of the ask? I'll start with Kenesia.
Okay, so happy to be here to share with you all. First, I'd like to say, I kind of come from a unique perspective in that I have, I was a producer in my entire career. And so I had the opportunity to, obviously get offers and, feel the anxiety of like, oh my gosh, like, do I want to negotiate? Do I not want to negotiate? To now actually being an agent. And, I'm very proud to advocate for my clients and to make sure that I get them the money that they deserve, the deal that they deserve, and that I'm, sharing and proving their worth. So I've learned a lot as an agent, and I want to say that, negotiating it's really an art form, and it's a craft, if you will, and it's something that as agents, we do go through a lot of training to kind of perfect that craft. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you ask a pilot, like, how do you fly a plane? There's no really one simple answer, but, there are some strategies. And in my opinion, I'd like to share the most common thing that I feel like the biggest mistake people make after they get a job offer when it comes to negotiating. And the number one mistake that people make is they don't negotiate at all. And so I think a lot of that comes from, a lot of mental fears, a lot of mental blocks that people feel about negotiating, whether it be, you don't want to lose the opportunity. You don't want your potential new boss to, feel like you're ungrateful. So a lot of these things, swirl in our head when we get a job offer. And a lot of those kind of stop us from advocating for ourselves and for feeling empowered. So my time on this panel, I like to kind of just share how to eliminate some of those mental blocks so that, we do feel empowered to negotiate for ourselves.
Kenesia, thank you so much. Galen, I'll go over to you. What are maybe 1 or 2 things off the bat that people really should know about negotiating that they might not?
Well, first of all, let me say thanks for having me on this panel. It was a last minute thing, which I appreciate. Angie was my brother, couldn't make it. So I appreciate you all having me. Second thing is, and I'll just say in my current role, I don't negotiate contracts. I'm the head of talent, but we have a business affairs team that it's like I identify the talent, they negotiate the deals. At my last job, I was doing both. I would identify talent and I would negotiate their deals. But so let me just say, so Kenesia is absolutely right when she said, I'll just say 2 things. One is what she said, which is, yes, when people make you an offer, that there is a salary range. They expect you to counter. So counter. There is a range for the job, and you want to try and get as close to that range as possible. So that's number 1. And number 2, just know that when you get a job offer, know that you are the candidate that they want. No company wants to really go to their second option. They see you as the first. So take comfort in the fact that when you have a job offer, that means you have a job. They want you. They just want to be able to land the plane within their range, salary range that they have in mind when they go out with their, I'll just say, their first number. In most cases, they have a number in mind. They expect you to counter, so counter.
Galen, thank you so much. So none other than the Rob Nelson. Rob, you've been a little bit of everywhere, my friend. You've been in local, you've been on the national stage. What are 2 things that you think that people do not know about negotiating that they need to know off the bat?
You're on mute, Rob.
Uh-oh. Rob, do you think you can unmute? I think we're not hearing your gems right now. Almost. Well, we'll let you have some time to do that, Rob. All right, let's go to Bob next, and then Rob, I'll come back to you. Bob, I know you have all the gems. What are 2 things that you think people off the bat should keep in mind about negotiations that they might not know?
I just reconnected. I'm assuming you're talking to me.
Yes. Hi.
One of the things that most of what I do is helping people that are just getting into the business who never signed a contract before. And there's 3 things I think people ought to know. One is when you get your contract, there's a lot of legalese in there. There's one clause up to the top that talks about they're hiring you as a reporter, an anchor, such and such. There's this other phrase that says duties as assigned. What that means is if they're hiring you as a reporter, they can actually ask you to come to work as a photographer or a producer that day, and it's legal for them to do that as long as they pay you your contracted salary. That's everybody's contract. They can make you do that. Second thing is this thing called the duty to non-compete. Basically, we call it a non-compete. When they hire you for, say, 6 months or for a year or a 2-year contract, there'll be a phrase in there that says, after you leave our employment, whether they fire you or you resign or whatever, you can't work in that same market at another TV station or a radio station for a specified period, usually 1 year. They're not legal in all states, but many states they are. So a non-compete is something you really need to be aware of. The last thing is, if you decide you want to do your contract early, sometimes they'll let you do that, but they'll need liquidated damages. What that means is if you want to leave your contract after 1 year, you'll have to pay them a fee to get out of your contract. It may be what's left on your contract, your salary for your contract for the second year, or a specified amount of money. Something you ought to be aware of before you decide to go off to take another job.
Bob, thank you so much. Do we have Rob back with us? I know we were checking his audio. Rob, you there? Still can't hear you just yet? Okay, well, we'll continue to troubleshoot. I know that we'll get it done. So for the rest of my panel, while we troubleshoot Rob, and Rob, whenever we can hear you, just pop in there, my friend. Just pop in there. So let's talk about trying to negotiate in this time, because for a lot of my friends that have tried to get jobs, they feel like the offers in the midst of the pandemic have been coming in really low. They feel like a lot of the perks that we used to get, as far as maybe clothing, hair, more vacation time, people just aren't moving the needle. You know, what are some things that we can put in our ask to put us in a better position to still get those things? And anybody can answer.
I'll say that if it's your first contract ever, your bargaining power is very, very limited. You can get what they want you to have, because these contracts are all written to benefit the company. But the further you go in your career, the more you can ask for in your contract. You can ask them to pay for you to go to NABJ. You can ask for them to. You should always get moving expenses if you have to move, even in your first contract. But things like going to NABJ, having that paid, professional development, things like that ought to be in your ask for your next contract and every contract after that.
Okay, Bob, thank you. Galen, are you seeing that on your side of things? I mean, I know that you're dealing with a lot of networks folks, but are you seeing that things are coming in lower than they have in the past? Are you seeing people still ask for these things?
I can't speak for another company's budget. But I want to help people overcome the fear of the negotiation. And just to piggyback quickly off what Bob said in his first comment about the non-compete, that's negotiable. There are a lot of things that are negotiable in your deal. So to your point, to Bob's point, make sure you read everything. In terms of coming into a company, like what to ask for, I would say know the company that you're applying to or that is courting you, right? And so if clothing allowance is important to you, all right, what is their track record on clothing allowance? You know, find out if they even do that. I wouldn't get hung up on that personally, especially early on in your career.
But what about for like the people who are maybe in their second, third career, they're trying to continue to move up and they're trying to negotiate these new contracts? You know, how do they find these things out? How do they still push for these traditional things that used to be in contracts all the time? Yeah,
no, absolutely. Depending on what they're asking you to do. And I mean it, what I mean by that is if you're a main anchor, there are a lot of things that the station should provide for you. And I will say should. If you're what a weekend anchor may not get what a main anchor gets in terms of that, or they may. Again, it all depends. It all depends on the organization. But also, you need to go in with a list of things that you want, knowing that you're not going to get everything. But have you or your representation say, hey, make sure that, because most companies want to give. They want you to feel like that you got some of what you asked for, not all, because you'll never get all of what you ask for, but they want to make sure that you got some of what you asked for. And again, it's important to know the organization that you're going to and their track record when it comes to the things that you're asking for.
And it looks like I only have 1 more minute with this panel. Rob, do I have you back? Can we hear you? Oh, still. I know whenever we can hear you, you're going to be dropping gems. Real quick, we have about 45 seconds before I have to give it to my colleague, Kinesia. Are you seeing, especially for your folks who are in their second, third, maybe even fourth jobs, are you seeing them get these traditional things like hair, makeup, more vacation? What's the power of their ask?
Okay, so I'm an optimist. So I believe anything is possible. So I approach negotiations with that mindset all the time. So I think it's important for people to know that everything really is negotiable, you know? So everything from, you know, vacation days, clothing, makeup, language, if you need language coaching, all of that is negotiable. But I think it's important to come to the negotiation table with kind of like what's most important to you and kind of have a clear understanding of what things are most important to you. And just really understanding that when you're going into a negotiation, like it's not like an opposition adversarial type of situation, you know, like it's really like you guys are on the same team with the common goal of, you know, each person feeling like it's a fair deal and that each person is really happy. So when you kind of approach it from that perspective, it kind of, you know, empowers you to be okay with asking for what it is that you want to ask for. So it's okay to ask for it, but you have to prove your value and prove why it is that you feel like, and well, actually not that you feel like, that you know you deserve what it is that you're asking for. And you got to prove that with facts, not feelings. You know what I mean? And there are some things I can share. I don't know how much time we have, but
in our BTF Region 4 representative, also a reporter at KUSA in Denver. Hey, Darius.
Hey, Alexis. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you all for the gems and all of you all who are on the listening in as well. For this session, we're really going to talk about getting out of a contract and also getting out of a non-compete. We know that's something that a lot of people may deal with if they are on-air talent or producer or something like that. So whoever may want to start first, I would love to know, when it comes down to having a contract, let's say you are unhappy where you are at this current phase. You've asked for certain things. You have tried to get moved to a different shift, and it just seems like you aren't getting the opportunities that you want. What's your way of going about getting out of your contract, regardless if you have a year or 2 years left? Whoever wants to take that first.
Poor Rob.
I think Rob is still on mute. Rob, we're going to get you at some point. I think, Bob, maybe you jumped in to start.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it depends on where you are in your career. If you're early in your career, it really is kind of suicide to try to get out of your contract because you're unhappy, because you're learning. In the first, if you've got a 2-year contract, it's best for you to stay in that contract for that 2 years, because if you try to get out of it, you're going to get a reputation of somebody, well, if I hire you, how do I know you're going to stay? You left your last job early. It's very important. As you get later in your career, you have more leverage to negotiate. So I don't say that there's a contract for that 2 years. But I think, you know, what you can do is you can go to your boss and say, listen, you know, things aren't working out. I have another offer. How can I get out of my contract? You may have to pay the damages, or the other company may have to pay the damages, but that's one possibility.
Who wants to jump in next?
I was just going to say that, you know, when it comes to getting out of a contract, it's not a one size fits all, you know, it's kind of different in every situation. I do think that it's important for, you know, talent to be comfortable and feel like, you know, their workplace environment is safe and healthy for them. However, I do, you know, I'm an advocate for people upholding their contracts. You know, obviously, you know, it's a contract there for a reason. I think a lot of times, you know, it comes down to, and this is just kind of piggybacks off of the gentleman who was just speaking before, you know, when you're earlier in your career and it's like you start having those feelings of, I'm not happy. Like, you know, they kind of have me covering these stories. I don't want to cover these stories. And I think that like, it's important for talent to understand that you're not always gonna be happy about everything, right? You're not gonna always be happy when it's happening, but it's all about your perspective and your mindset, right? Because the thing is, you have to see what makes you not happy or see what you don't like to see what you do like. You know, you're gonna have to do some stories that you didn't enjoy doing to realize you don't enjoy doing that, and to understand that, okay, hey, I like doing this. So I think, like, you know, I just want to encourage people to don't be so quick to just, you know, focus so much on all the things that you don't like about a station, because ultimately it's about you building yourself as you know, on-air talent and a journalist, and growing your career. And you know, there's different hurdles to that. So, you know, so yeah, just kind of keeping that mindset when it comes to trying to get out of a contract, you know, and being able to see the things that you don't necessarily like about your job, but see how that is helping you to grow and to be better, you know, in the next stage in your career.
All great advice, because we all go through seasons. Galen, I'm going to pass the baton to you next.
No, 100%. I think we're, you know, kind of all saying the same thing. I want to know, why does one want to get out of their contract? Because you know, I looked at it. My local career was about 9 years, and every new market was a new growth opportunity, right? And I wanted to make sure that I was the best, and I was a, you know, line producer. I was the best line producer or show producer, like I owned my spot. Now, does it? I haven't seen it candidly, where people have asked out of their contract. This is where the talent department agency relationship really is in play, because I look at it as a partnership in managing a talent and guiding a talent and coaching a talent. And so if you're challenged on your hours, well, you signed a contract to work 10 hours, or you didn't read your contract, or in terms of how you're assigned. But at the same time, I would look at it as, you know, you're in the business of telling stories, right? Or producing rundowns, whatever the case may be. That organization deemed you worthy to bring you in and tell stories, or produce rundowns, or lead, you know, lead a certain portion of their business. So I'd want to know why, and if there is that much of a disconnect, I would like to think, and I've seen it once or twice, where an organization will work with that individual to move on. But to Bob's point and Kanisha's point, then what? Because, you know, we all have resumes, and people want to know how you performed in your last job or your last opportunity. And, you know, the more question marks you have there, I think it'd be more difficult for you to truly land the next job. Because if you were asking out of an opportunity there, then what makes you think, I think Bob said this, that you'll make it here, or that you won't quit per se. So, you know, but that's where the talent department agent relationship, that partnership, is truly beneficial for the growth and development of talent.
Perfect. No, I love that. And it really is one of those case-by-case situations when it comes to contracts and trying to figure out how you can get out of one. Let's talk about more so of the non-compete side of it. We know a lot of these markets have non-competes. Some states, it may be illegal completely. However, let's say you are that person that's in a contract, your contract may be coming up, and you and the station have both agreed to separate. However, you have a non-compete. How can you go about getting out of that, especially if your station also decided to part ways with you as well?
I'll pick it up. I think it's, you know, that could be negotiable, or the organization can simply say no. And then, you know, the organization, the competing station that you're trying to work for can't hire you unless you hire attorneys to try and get out of that. And that's you know, another ball of wax again, which you know, I'm not particularly, non-competes are negotiable going in, but they also can be negotiable going on the way out. And the same market is tough. You know, I've seen non-compete situations at the network level where someone wanted to leave their job opportunity early to go work for the competition. And I've seen an organization let an individual out, but also determined, hey, but you can't work for this other organization until X amount of time or days. So that is the negotiable side of that.
I want to throw one thing in there before we go to the next person, because I feel like maybe Kanesia or Bob would really be able to speak to this one. Just speaking to Denver specifically, and just knowing a couple of situations that can happen sometimes. There may be a situation if you're at one station and you are leaving and you're trying to go to another. Let's say you have a 6-month non-compete. Are you able to really negotiate to, hey, start at that next station the next week? However, everything you're doing is off air. You have no bylines online. You have none of these different things, but you're still getting paid from this station.
Kanesia, go ahead.
I think we just lost Kanesia really fast, maybe a quick technical difficulty, but Bob, if you're able to pick that one up.
You can always try. I mean, I've heard of people who have gone to work for another station where there was a non-compete, but they had to change their name. They couldn't use the same name, which was kind of stupid. That would happen in California. That's now non-competes aren't legal here, but you can always try to do that. But the companies, the reasons they're going to give you for not allowing you out of your non-compete is because they spent all this money promoting you, and they don't want you to go across the street, because they're afraid that you will pull viewers along with you, and you may well. That's why they have the non-competes. But when you're getting ready to leave and you get a job offer across the street, yes, you can say, well, I'm going to go work over there as a producer, for 6 months before I get on the air. Your company might go along with that, but the way companies are nowadays, that might be a bit of a stretch.
Kanesia, we have about 2 minutes. If you're able to jump in and answer that one, if we have you, or Rob, let's see if we have you. No, Rob? All right. Anything else either of you two wanted to add before we get ready to go to the next session? And before I get ready to hand things off to Sharice, whether that is regarding getting out of a contract or whether that is trying to get out of a non-compete.
Well, I just think it's very difficult nowadays to get out of a contract, especially early in your career. The more time you have in, the easier it's going to become. But you have to understand that going in, that if you sign a 2-year contract, especially early on, you're going to be there for 2 years, and you need to be there for 2 years. It's going to take you a year to find out where to eat, after 10 o'clock. It's going to take you a year to find out who you can call at the police department to get stories. So I think it's a good idea to stay there. Getting out of contract is not as easy as people think it is. I had one situation where somebody wanted to walk away from their contract, and they said, Bob, I'm just so unhappy here. I have 1 year left. I told them, you know what, if you walk away, people are going to know that. It's going to follow you around. She stayed. Now, last time I talked to her, she's anchoring, I think, in Birmingham. So there's a reason why you don't want to walk away from your contract.
This is a very, very small business, and particularly when it comes to talent of color. So keep that in mind. Your name and reputation is sometimes all we have, and you want, in many cases, you want your name and reputation to go before you. And so if you're in a situation where, say, you went out of your contract for whatever reason, you could be deemed as a difficult personality or whatever, and the next organization may not want to take a risk. We're always looking into why someone's experience was, not just technically as a reporter or producer, but also the term I like to use is, are they an ambassador? Their soft skills and how people react and respond to them. So, keep your name and reputation in mind when it comes to things like that.
Perfect. Well said from the both of you. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry we lost Rob and then we lost Kanesia really fast, but you two gentlemen held it down. That completes our second power play. I'm going to go ahead and send things over to our next moderator, Miss Sharice Gibson, who is our Broadcast Task Force Region 3 representative. She is an anchor, evening anchor at WWL in New Orleans, also our Technofriends.
Yes, thank you so much, Darius. Yeah, I hope that everyone can hear me really well. And as he mentioned, I am an evening anchor, so I quite literally finished a show just a few minutes ago. So I'm still sitting on the desk right now. But I have to give some before we even get started. Have to give some love to Rob Nelson because you know that Rob, this was his shot before he decided to fly on away to New York City and leave us alone. And Rob, we love you, and I personally asked you to participate. Hopefully, we can figure something out so that we can get you in. Just know that we are behind the scenes scrambling to try to figure out how we can get the audio situated. So thank you for sticking with us. But as I talk about that, I've been at Channel 4 for a couple of years now, for about 3 years now. And this is the first time that I have stopped doing the 3-year dance. And the 3-year dance is what I like to refer to as the 3 and out contract. Whenever I go on as an anchor somewhere, do my 3 years, do my 2 years, and then I move on to the next market. So now this is the first time that I can say I've done a renegotiation, which you think about the negotiation when you are initially beginning your career in this industry and how nerve-wracking that is. This is the first time where a renegotiation came into play, and I didn't exactly know what it is I was supposed to ask for. What was I supposed to expect? So I just want to pose this to all of our panelists just to ask, when it comes to renegotiating a contract, saying, you know what, I'm happy, I want to stay here for a little bit longer, what deal can we come to terms with? What are some things that you think we should all keep in mind? And this can go to anyone.
I was going to say, I think it's important to keep in mind that you're kind of in the power position in terms of other candidates at that point, just because, obviously, the station, you know what the needs are, you know what their goals are, your management. And you're right there, in their face to be able to articulate that to them. So I think just having the confidence in knowing what you bring to that station and what you could further bring, because I think that's very important too. If you've already been there, it's like, okay, well, you've already done that. Like, I think you need to be kind of leading up to that point, leveling up your value, leveling up your social media, and that's a big thing too. Social media. I've been having so many conversations with hiring managers about social media, and like in a lot of different contexts too. Like, really, like how is your social media going to benefit the station? Not just, doing like the fun dances and things like that, and not even just followers, how many followers you have, but just how you're actually using the platform. So yeah, social media, and then other things too. Just building up your tool belt so that way when it is time for that renegotiation, you're able to come to your manager with real tangible things that you're going to do to kind of level up the station, be a leader in a different way, and just, all the values.
Right. What about you, Galen?
Know your stats. What I mean by that, if you're an anchor, how was your show performed over the last 2-3 years of your contract? Were they in third and not in first? Now you provided a whole lot of value to that organization. And so if your show is performing well or has grown while you've been there, especially as an anchor, you've literally added value in dollars to that station. The higher the ratings a show are, the higher the station gets charged for ad revenue. So you should be getting some of that, right? So so know your stats there, know your presence in the marketplace. Social media, to Kenisha's point, is an unofficial measure of popularity, if you will. That's tricky because you can get 10,000 viewers from your previous market, 10,000 followers from your previous market. But how has your social media grown? How have ratings grown? And the one thing you definitely can control is, when you do a story, whether it's a sweeps piece or whatever the case may be, know your story count and also know which stories had impact within that marketplace. Like, to Kenisha's point, bring something to the table for them to say, I did this, I did that. Our shows have performed this way since I've been here, blah, blah, blah. You are in a position, you are in a better bargaining position when you have something to bring to the table there. So knowing your overall worth and value in ways of story count, in ways of your social presence, in ways that your shows have performed, have the ratings grown. Those are really, really important intangibles that add value to your next deal.
All right. And one of the ways that, of course, you can measure those insights, a lot of people don't pay attention to it, but on Instagram, we look over that view insights button.
Yeah.
But I've just started paying attention to it, and it shows just how many times your story has been viewed, shared, the audience. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. Bob, what about you?
Well, I think once you have that information that Galen talked about and Kenesha talked about, then you can go in there and say, okay, I need another week of vacation. Or you can say, you know what, you're offering me a 3% raise. Given what I've just told you about what I'm doing for the station, I think I deserve more, like 10%. That's when you can really negotiate better for you. One of the big people I used to work with, she was an anchor at TV in San Francisco. Then she worked in radio. Then she went to CNN. His name was Valerie Coleman Morris. She did business there. She said, you know, when I had my negotiation at KGO, I told them I wanted to go home every night to have dinner with my husband and my kids. And so my lunch break was supposed to be 30 minutes. I got 90 minutes for my lunch break. It's little things like that that improve your quality of life that you can ask for once you're in that position where you have the list, you have the viewers, you have the numbers to show how much you're bringing to the station. Very important stuff like that. And then, you know, a week of vacation, some companies will tell you, well, our vacation policy is 3 weeks per year, blah, blah, blah. There are always exceptions to the rule. And once you're in that position of power, you can ask for that. And I'm more likely to get it.
You know, there's some people. I'm sorry, go ahead, Galen.
Real quick, you want to build up your resume over the last, you know, the length of that last contract to show what would life be like at the station without me.
Exactly.
Oh, that's okay. That's a gem that I hope that we tweeted out. So, you know, I know that some people tend to ask for more money, or they're asking for quality of life. They want to improved quality of life. Now, I'm speaking from another perspective. You do have some younger journalists who, since they've been here and they have the resume where they've shown they've done wonderful and breaking stories, wall-to-wall coverage. They have gotten high-powered interviews. They are doing extremely well. I'm trying to stay at this station, continue to do well, but I want to be promoted to another position, whether it's, hey, that anchor position is open, or that weekend anchor position is open, and I want to get an opportunity. I want to have the first chance to get that spot. You know, how do you properly have that conversation? Because I've seen this conversation go extremely well, but I've also seen it fail too. So what are some of the pros and cons of having it with management? And I can go if I think, Kenesha, do you want to start?
I was going to say, I mean, I think it's always, you know, a pro to be transparent and honest and upfront. And so if that is a goal of yours, I suggest, you know, finding the right time, having that conversation with your management. But it's also coming to it from the perspective of, you know, here's a goal that I have. Here's what I would like to do. What can I do? What should I do to show, you know, to prepare for that if an opportunity becomes available. So actually letting your manager give you tangible things that you can do to showcase that, you know, you are, you know, preparing for an opportunity if it becomes available. And just, you know, to also knowing that there's no promise to that, you know, like no one, it's not guaranteed that you will get that opportunity, but you can put yourself in a position to be in alignment for it. So I would ask. And be transparent. You know, people are just people. You know, we're all humans. I think that's important to remember. Like, you know, your manager, they're just another human too. If you're coming at them with, you know, being transparent and honest, you know, majority of the time, you know, they'll feel you and give you that reciprocity back.
Get comfortable asking or not asking or stating what you want, right? As the saying goes, closed mouths don't get fed, right? So if it is your goal to anchor one day, there's no harm in saying, you know what, I like to be an anchor. I like to be an anchor one day. I may not be ready now, but I love the opportunity to show you what I can do on the weekends, overnights, or whatever, occasionally to do that, or once or twice, right? But it's okay I want people to have goals. And candidly, I think managers expect you to have goals. I ask people straight up all the time, what do you want to do? And if it's your goal to replace Robin Roberts one day, I was like, okay, cool. Now I know what you know how you're thinking, and And all right, so you really think high. All right, and I'm going to look at you as, can I see you as, maybe not Roman Roberts, but can I see you as an anchor here? Or can I see you as because anchors are basically they're the faces of your station and they're the ambassadors of your network. And so what comes with that is how you carry yourself as well. But it's okay to tell people early on what your goals are and see if that aligns with how they see you as well. Because you'd rather know in the beginning as opposed to your contract is up and they're like, you know what?
Right.
This didn't work out. Time to move on, or we're going to move on.
Right. I want to chime in because, like we said, Rob, we're going to get you on here no matter what. Rob just sent me something that is quite phenomenal. You must learn the lesson that TV is often not a meritocracy. There are always political, financial, and demographic concerns. Be clear with goals, and your successes must stay realistic. With that comment being made, I want to let Bob jump in as well.
Yeah, I think if you are hired as a reporter, and you start off working weekends, you're the weekend reporter, and then you start working Monday through Friday. Start working during the week. Your contract is coming up. It is not out of the ordinary, or it is not improper for you to say, well, listen, I really want to anchor. I'd like to be able to anchor weekends. And if they like what you're doing, I don't see why they wouldn't want to do that. I don't see why they wouldn't want to keep you there. So that's something that's very easy to ask for. I want to become an anchor reporter. I'll anchor the weekends and report during the week. And then if you're going to stay at the station long enough, eventually you may become anchoring Monday through Friday. But you do have to, as Galen said, the closed mouth does not get fed. You have to tell them what you want to do. You also have to be able to do it. And if they see you can do it, I don't see why they would not give you the opportunity.
And right, just to piggyback off that real quick, and that was a great point, Bob. Like if you're a weekend reporter of the KCB and you have anchor aspirations, don't ask to anchor the main show. Ask to anchor the weekend show. Ask to anchor the weekend morning show. Ask to anchor the overnight show. Those anchors take vacations too, and so like ask to be considered when these folks go away. If I can get a shot to anchors, just so they can see what you can do. Right. So be realistic with your ask and expectations.
All right, I have 1 minute left. I have 1 minute left. Just in that 1 minute that I have, unfortunately, there are some people who do this wrong. If you can give us a brief explanation as to the wrong way to approach the conversation, and any one person can finish this off, an example of the way that you do this incorrectly, completely.
I'll start off. I want to be an anchor, and if you don't give me that, I'm going to leave.
No. Well, I would hope you don't do that. Get Kinesia.
Or negative Nancy and person that's comparing. You gave such and such has been here a shorter time than me, and I see that you've given them a promotion. I've been here such and such, and I haven't got a promotion. Like that approach is just not going to work, and that energy is just not going to work. You're not going to get anything by doing that.
Yeah, that puts the manager or management on the defensive. Yeah. Another approach is to put it in their hands. Hey, I have these ideas of doing something. Like, what do you think? What can I do to get there? What do you think is best? What is my best way? What's my best approach of doing that or getting an opportunity to anchor? Just put the onus on the manager. Remind them of the value that how you think of the place. But if you come from the defensive and definitely do not compare yourself to another talent in the shop.
All right. And I'm going to finish this off with Rob's comment, which is be humble. More often than not, management has most of the power. All right. Thank you all so much for those conversations. That completes our final power play. So we have a time for questions. Please welcome my BTF Region 2 rep, Charmaine Nero, reporter at KARE 11 in Minneapolis.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope I'm coming in clear here. You can all see me, but great discussion so far. A lot of great questions as well. And I know you guys have been so patient. So thank you all. We're going to get started because we want to make sure we're valuing out our time here. So the first question is from Shalitha Hurd. And Shalitha asks, should you ask for your salary range when offered the job? And I think that question was directly to Bob Butler. So we'll have you speak on that first. I'll ask that again. Should you ask for your salary range when offered the job?
Once you're offered the job, yes, you should definitely tell them what salary you're looking for, because they're going to ask you. They're going to probably check up and find out how much you're making, and they're going to make you an offer. And you can say, well, listen, I think that's, that 78 is good, but I was thinking more along the lines of 95, and you might end up somewhere around 82 or 83. I think that's one of the things that's very important, that you don't undersell yourself. The company will do that for you.
Absolutely. And I want to pass this along to our panel, because I think that's a great question, especially for a lot of our young talent in the industry. Kenesha, do you have anything to add to that as well?
I would say, so once you're given an offer, yes, you want to take some time to think about it, have your number that you want. And then I think it's just about being polite and then just being honest, having had done your research, based on my research and experience, I was actually expecting such and such, I understand where you're coming from, but, based on my success, I was hoping to get in this range. And then there's other tactics too. There's other ways to ask them about money that is called other things that you can then ask for, and that would, supplement for the shortage in the salary that you want. Hope that answers the question.
Like a signing bonus.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Did you have anything to add to that, Galen?
No, I was saying, there's always a range. There is always a range. There is always a range when you get a job offer. And so, no, it's okay. They expect you to negotiate, so you should. You want to get within that window. And if they're off by a couple of thousand, yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask for, a signing bonus, hoping you're getting, in addition to help with relocation or whatever the case may be. So, because that signing bonus represents immediate money for that 1 year, and they may just have just that. But just know that there's always a range when you get a.
And
thank you so much.
It's a different budget line item, which the bean counters love.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I hope we answered your question, Shalitha Hurd, and I hope you were here to hear that. We're going to go right over to Cameron Scott. Cameron asked, can you still negotiate a contract after accepting the written offer? Meaning say yes to the money, but then read the contract and something pops up in your head, for example, vacation, non-compete, etc. Can you still negotiate after you have signed that written offer?
Not after you signed it. It's very difficult to do that because you've already got a signed contract.
Yeah, and that's kind of a poor reflection on you also, that you didn't read through your contract tooth and nail, or your agent didn't read through your contract tooth and nail. So that's what I like to call a missed opportunity.
Thank you for that. And so it's really cut and dry. Once you sign that contract, make sure you read through it, make sure you understand what you're signing, because there isn't an easy way to change that once you put your name on that dotted line. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. And we're going to go to the next question from Jay Berrien. He says, I've been told in the past not to give a number when it comes to salary negotiation. I've given a range before, and of course, the station chose the lowest number. How do I get the number that I actually want without giving it away too early? Good question. And feel free to answer that. We can start with you, Galen, if that works.
The question is, how do you?
Yeah, so basically he's asking, I've been told in the past not to give an exact number when it comes to salary negotiation. I've given a range before, and his employer always chose the lowest of his range. How can you tackle that when you are, trying to get the higher offer and you offer, the highest or lowest? How do you finagle that? Picking a number that works best for you without your employer.
I will let them
that lowest offer.
I will let them present the first number. Never present. I would say never present the first number. Let them present the first number.
Yep. And ask for more than what you're going to settle for.
100%.
Yeah, and do you think, and this is just going off of that question for Jay, who may have had a follow-up, should he research the market first, figure out what that base salary is, maybe reach out to others in that market who have had that position and see what they were offered? What is the process to figuring out what that range is, and what should people do beforehand?
It's great as a baseline to know the market, but not all stations in every market are the same. If you're a dominant number one in a market, you might pay differently than the number 2 or number 3 station. So what is the company? What is the parent company of the local station? What are their hiring / paying practices? But yeah, it's good to know a general sense of what reporters, anchors, or producers make in a market. Now, anchors are a little different, because a dominant main anchor is going to make way more than the anchor at the number 2 or 3 station. But it also may depend on again, the company behind it. Some companies are frugal than others, so you just never know.
And if you have an agent, your agent ought to know what the salary range is in that market and at various stations, because agents talk. Do they not, Kanisha?
Exactly. No, absolutely. I was going to say, well, a few different things, but I was going to say definitely as an agent, this is why I recommend people getting agents. I mean, we just do so many amazing things that you really can't do on your own. But so yeah, as an agent, like, not only do we know, I mean, it's our job to pretty much know a little bit of everything. But in addition to that, I would say to give you advice, Jay, is that also, like, you got to know, like, who you're up against too. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if you are, let's just say you're a sports talent, and sports is one of those really tough ones. It's only really a few sports jobs available. It's only really a few, sports talent that are might be at the same level at that time. So, like, you need to know your industry. Who's all the other sports guys? Are you the best? Out of all of them, like, where do you rank? Because that matters as well in terms of your leverage. And if you are, getting an offer, and that, the 5 other sports guys that could potentially be up for this job with you, you're like way better than them, then, that's leverage that I think that you should use. But it all goes back to, like, the mentality and the mindset and really knowing your value. And I do find that a lot of times, like, I talk to talent and they don't even really know how good they are, and I have a broader perspective just because I'm seeing all the talent. So just being confident, knowing who you are, knowing that you worked hard, knowing that you put in the work, and being, like, really believe that you deserve what you deserve. And don't give a range that is not a range. If you don't want the bottom of that range, don't give a range. Give the number that you want, and let that lowest number be the number that you'd be happy with.
Okay, thank you so much. We're just going to have to mention one other comment from Rob, because we want to bring you in. You need a good agent or someone on the inside who's willing to give you a salary range. So we're going to wrap this up right now because we have to set our time. But thank you so much for answering the questions from our viewers. We're going to bring back in Alexis if she's here. And yes, thank you all so much. Great questions and answers.
All right, Charmaine, thank you so much. Hey, real quick, because we actually got a little bit of time back, we had a really good question I wanted you guys to answer. So when you negotiate, we got this question: how often have you heard of people asking for a cost of living increase? And if you have heard of it, how do you ask for that?
Those are usually built into your contract. You're going to get a raise just pretty much every year. If you aren't getting a raise every year, there's something wrong. How much of a raise you're going to get, that's already in your contract. So you're going to make X amount of dollars the first year. Second year, you're going to get X amount of dollars. Third year, X amount of dollars. So that ought to take care of the cost of living, although now I know it's a lot higher. Are you going to get a 10% raise? That may be debatable, but it's always possible. And if you need more money when your contract is up to renegotiation, you can ask for more money.
But what if you're going into a new place? Like, let's say, you're leaving Colorado and you're going all the way to DC. Those are 2 different, cost of living. So maybe they offer you something that sounds good to you where you are, but you're like, actually, in order for it to be what I need it to be, to be able to get those couple extra shoes and that vacation, I actually needed to be this. So how
Then
do
you ask for that.
Okay. And do you say like, via the cost of living difference that
No, you just say, listen, I'm thinking, you don't have to give them a reason why you want to get paid more money. I think I'm worth 110. You're offering, 100. I'm thinking more along the lines of 110. And they can, either they do it or they don't. You might meet somewhere in the middle of 105. But you definitely should always ask for more than what that you're willing to accept. Because they always offer you the lowest that they can, and expecting you're going to negotiate them up.
Absolutely. How about you, Galen? What do you think? As far as I know that with you all, you're in many different cities, but is that something that you factor in? How should somebody ask you about that particular kind of increase?
I would say to Bob's to if you have a contract, then there should be built-in escalators. If you signed a 2 or 3 year deal and you're flat, then you either need a new agent or have someone else speak on your behalf. But knowing the market value, the cost of living in Denver is obviously different than the cost of living in DC. And look, NABJ, we're a large community. There are plenty of us in different markets, and don't be afraid. And we have to get used to this of asking people, how much. I'm not asking for your salary, but what is a realistic range for that, and have them answer it that way. So leverage the resource, and I've done that in negotiation. I was like, hey, I've been presented this. Not this job, but another job. I presented this X title. I'm not asking for your salary, but what is a range that I can expect? And that's after the company, presented their first offer. So I was like, okay, not only are they in the ballpark, they're actually above what you just said. And so it's good to reach out to the resources that we have within this organization of NABJ. There are Black journalists. We are everywhere, especially in these major cities. So find someone that you may know or someone else that might know someone in that market, and say, hey, they're not asking for your salary, but they're trying to get a sense of a range of where they should be.
Galen, it's so awesome that you say that, because I do want to emphasize on this. NABJ is a family. This is a very wonderful resource to have real conversations with people of power, people who are signing checks, people who can actually say something that could, get you into a better situation. I'm here texting with Rob. Hey, Rob. And Rob gave some of the similar advice. He said managers usually take, cost of living into consideration. It is up to your agent to fight for that. You must get a source inside to give you the range. He agrees with you, Galen. The research of cost of living is important. He also said on a previous question that, you should definitely let the station put down the first number. It dictates the rest of the conversation, then counter, knowing that you'll meet somewhere in the middle, but go big in that first counter. It might be your last best shot. And that was good, my brother. I like that. If it's that, I'm just gonna have to call you, one of the two. And then Kenesha, as we close this, what would you like to add to this part of the conversation?
I was just gonna say that, there's a lot of things that you can come up with to justify why you want more money. But I'm just always gonna go back to your value, who you are, your worth. That is how you really justify how much you should be getting paid. And then another thing that I think that just don't acknowledge, it's not really just innate for us to really acknowledge and to use, but the fact that we are Black, we are diverse talent. And more than ever, this has always been the case, but now people are actually saying it. We're everything. We're what everyone wants. We bring flavor. We bring a lot to the table. And stations want diverse talent because of all the magic that we bring. So know that and utilize that, and know that that's part of your value, and you can use that as well. I have a diverse female reporter that is bilingual who just met with Galen recently. Yep. And hugely, wildly valuable. So yeah, use what we have.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. And I will end with this because panel, you all have been great. You've been rocking it with us all throughout tonight, even with all the hills and valleys. We just so appreciate you. I think
Alexa, can I add one thing? One
Yes.
real quick thing.
Yes.
A lot of our young people don't need to get an agent their first, maybe not even their second job.
100%. Preach, Bob.
Yeah, you don't need an agent the first couple of jobs because you can do that yourself. If you've got a contract and you don't know what it says, my organization, SAG-AFTRA, will look at that contract for you free of charge and tell you what's in it and tell you whether or not it's standard for the market. So if you can reach out, y'all know how to reach me. If you got a contract, you can send it to me, and Alexis knows about this.
Absolutely.
Can I make one point? I think that depends. So I disagree, obviously, because I'm an agent, but I think that it's because agents, it's not just about the money, really. If you get a good agent, which I know not all agents are the same, but a good agent is going to coach you, is going to mentor you in those first and second years, to kind of build your foundation, in the industry so that you can make those big jumps to make that big money. So I think, having an agent might not be for everyone, but I think for some people, having an agent is hugely beneficial. Even just learning the politics of the business in that first and second year. That's definitely very, very crucial. So.
Well, and I think that's why it's good to have this conversation, because depending on who you ask is going to depend on what answer you get. Galen, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, and I think where Bob, not that Bob was poo-pooing agents.
No, I know.
Yeah, I think where Bob is coming from, and what I'm saying certainly is your first job, your second job is really learning how to be a really good storyteller and journalist, being the best journalist and storyteller you can, and then those things will come as a result. So, above all things, work on your craft, work on your journalism, work on the value that you bring to these respective organizations, and good things will come.
And lean on your NABJ family. And speaking of family, thank you all so much for your time. We appreciate you. We have closed our power panel at this point. If you all have any more questions, we want everyone to connect with us. And so we made that really simple for you. You can email us at nabjbroadcasttf@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter at NABJBroadcastTF, or you can hit us up on Instagram as well at NABJBTF. And of course, in this space, we will be keeping these recordings up for our members to be able to go back, find some of those gems that you guys have been dropping all night. So that way, hopefully this will help you in your next journey. So that way you feel valued, appreciated, and you can continue to contribute to this beautiful industry we call broadcast, because we're needed. So you all, thank you so, so much. And to all of my moderators and my team, thank you very much. To Ken, we appreciate you. And big ups for the OG Rob, because we know that we couldn't hear you, but we can feel you. And that's a part of the thing too.
Shout out to Rob. Appreciate you, Rob.
Thanks,
Rob, this was great. Appreciate y'all.
Well, thank you all so much. This concludes our panel, and our next power plant panel will be next month, and we're going to be giving our producers a whole lot of love. So be sure that you look out for our flyers for that, and then we'll talk about December very soon. We're also taking suggestions of any types of panels that you would like to see at the convention, because believe it or not, we're already planning for the convention in Birmingham next year, and we want to make sure that our members are well represented. And so we're going to be taking a lot of ideas. If you have anything that you feel like you want to give to us, please, again, reach out to us, and we'll make sure that we put those forms on this Facebook group as well. All right, everybody, stay encouraged, be blessed, and we will see you next time.